You can develop and work with your action plan in many different ways. There is no one way or the way to do it. The following description is a suggestion as to how you can approach the development and implementation of an action plan. First, decide on a focus area where your new knowledge from the learning program can be of benefit to your organization or program. Do this in close dialogue with the key stakeholders in your organization, i.e., colleagues and superiors, and with other important stakeholders. You might consider formulating an initial focus question that indicates the center of gravity of your action plan focus area and frames the planning process. That may be, how can my department improve its monitoring practices? Or, how can we mainstream gender issues into our programs? Then identify the key stakeholders and find out what their interests are with regard to the focus area. Ask yourself the question, what's in it for them? And consider what might make it interesting for them to engage wholeheartedly in the planned actions. Often, some stakeholders will support your initiative, while others might be against it. The three main steps in stakeholder analysis are: first, identifying the stakeholders; second, identifying their interests with regard to the development intervention; and third, making a plan for how to manage and communicate with the key stakeholders. Now, having determined the focus area and identified the key stakeholders, make a problem analysis by identifying the most important challenges that the action plan shall address. For each important challenge, ask yourself, what are the main causes of this problem? Out of the challenges identified, choose a central problem that your action plan will address and construct a problem tree by putting the underlying causes underneath the problems. An example of a problem tree is shown on the next slide. A short video on how to make stakeholder and problem analysis is available in the supplementary course material presented on the front page of the e-learning module. Here is an example of a problem tree. The chosen starter problem is high infant mortality. By asking the question, why do we have a high infant mortality rate? A number of causes are stated. Each time a cause is identified, you repeat the same question. How come we have this problem? And thus the analysis can continue downwards. From the problem analysis, it becomes evident that if you want to address the problem of high infant mortality in a given area, you will have to work with water treatment and nutrition, and probably with other health-related issues too, if our analysis is right. It is a good idea to conduct your problem analysis together with some of the key stakeholders in order to get a more comprehensive picture of the often complex relations between various problems and their causes. Once you have made a proper analysis of the present situation, including current problems and key stakeholders, then it is time to look towards the future desired situation. Here, the purpose is to imagine what an improved future should look like and what results will have been achieved. Walt Disney is said to have formulated the sentence, "If you can dream it, you can do it." From a project management point of view, it's definitely helpful to be able to describe the goal that your development intervention is aiming at. Otherwise, it will become almost impossible to plan. So, In formulating the desired future situation, you typically use a formulation such as this. This and that will have been achieved if and when the action plan has been successfully implemented. The answer to what will have been achieved when the action plan has been successfully implemented will help us formulate the results that we want to see in the form of project objectives. The next step is then to ask yourself, what does it take to produce these results and achieve the project-related objectives? The answer to this question will inform our pathway of change. In this very simplified example, the overall challenge identified is too many road accidents, and the overall objective of the development intervention therefore becomes to achieve a future situation with fewer road accidents. By asking ourselves, how can we reduce the number of road accidents? Part of the answer might be that we need the drivers to drive more carefully. By then asking, how do we get the drivers to drive more carefully? Part of the answer might be to educate the drivers. When you do this kind of exercise, it is a good idea to work with post-its or other movable cardboard cards and to invite the key stakeholders to participate in the process. The best way to achieve results sometimes looks different from different perspectives. A short video on how to develop a pathway of change is available in the supplementary course material presented on the front page of the e-learning module. Change processes are rarely straightforward, and behind your formulation of the ideal pathway of change leading to the results, you will have always made a number of assumptions about what it takes for change to happen. Assumptions are preconditions, things that have to prevail for the change to happen. And remember, assumptions can be wrong. By clarifying the underlying assumptions, you can evaluate how likely a change is to happen and whether you need to initiate other activities or get commitment from key stakeholders in order for the change to happen. Always ask yourself, are my assumptions correct? Are they well founded and tested? And do we all agree on the assumptions? The easiest way to identify assumptions is to ask yourself the question, can I be sure that one change will lead to another? What are the implicit assumptions behind my change logic? And then write down these assumptions so that they can be assessed. Make sure to discuss your assumptions among colleagues and with your partners and beneficiaries. They may have key information that can help prove your assumptions right or wrong, or maybe just add to a more detailed understanding. If we take the example with the drivers we want to train to have fewer road accidents, you can ask yourself, can I be sure that drivers will drive better when they have been trained? And even if drivers drive more responsibly, can I then be sure that there will be fewer traffic accidents? The answers to these questions will help you identify the need for further activities for the change logic to work, and thus reinforce the chances of success of the development intervention. Of how to work with assumptions. Behind each logic, indicated by the vertical grey arrows, there are a number of assumptions, of which we have indicated a few here. Clarifying these assumptions can help you design your intervention in a way that copes with these uncertainties. Assumptions can be identified in various ways. Remember to include key stakeholders in this process. In order to start the process, you could consider asking yourself the following questions. Are we sure that implementing our suggested activities will lead to the desired outputs, and that our activities are the best and most effective way of achieving the desired results? Are we sure that even if our identified activities will support the achievement of the desired result, that they are enough to do so? Are we sure that if our outputs are produced, that they will lead to the expected outcomes? And if our outputs lead to the achievement of the medium-term outcomes, can we then be sure that the long-term impact will actually materialize? Finally, do we have the same assumptions about how change happens between staff and with partners and beneficiaries? The answers to these questions will improve the project planning process. It's important to continuously check your assumptions.